Hello, lovers and friends. Welcome to a new episode of Unabashed. We are in a whole new year, which means we are going to be bringing in a whole bunch of new topics, one being longevity, peptides, health, and vitality to help support our sexuality, our pleasure, and our relationships. We're going to be diving deeper into 2026 being your year of the most richest, the most deepest, the most relaxing, ecstatic pleasure of your lives. And yes, it starts with you. And from you and you can build that out to you and another and your lover and everyone around you. And so today, I'm going to be bringing in Courtney Cash, who is a biohacking nurse, a wellness coach with an ICU RN and a former EMT background from North Carolina. She helps women optimize their hormones, which she's been helping me do as well, metabolism, energy, skin, and longevity through integrative medicine, lifestyle upgrades, and data backed protocols that actually fit your real life. Because you guys know I'm busy, I'm all over the place, but you'll hear my personal story as well as her expertise on how we can bring these amazing cutting edge technologies and tools, these holistic tools, into our everyday life. She blends clinical strategy with holistic tools, as I was mentioning, and she's also used herself as her own human guinea pig. So she doesn't just try it on herself for results or give it to you for results. She tries it on herself. And we're going to talk to you a little bit about how we met, how we are experimenting, what we're experimenting with, and give you a little bit of a peek behind the veil on maybe some inspiration that you could do for your own vitality, longevity, and biohacking. So, Court, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here. Your
I'm
energy is amazing. So I love talking with you about all of this.
Oh, me too. I'm so glad our hubbies connected us,
Yes.
and they've been doing all kinds of biohacking, longevity pieces, and so it was a no-brainer for us to connect on all things, health and wellness. And you are one of the first, besides having a triple board certified OBGYN, you're one of the first women that I'm bringing on that has this background specifically with longevity and holistic tools, who has use it on herself so much more than just being someone in the industry and prescribing. And so
Yeah.
I would love to know, a little bit more about you and introduce yourself to, my audience as well as, maybe educate more of your audience on, kind of a little bit about this journey, why it's important to you, the mission you're on, and also curious around like a little bit of, again, from the clinical background and the clinical strategy into holistic, which I'm very much about. We need both East and West. But what's your
Totally.
experience been like with that and got you to doing what you're doing now?
Totally. Yeah. I mean, when I started my health journey, this was before I was even a nurse. I was an EMT at the time, riding ambulances, seeing the sickest of the sick people that had been failed in a way by just the Western medicine system. They had fallen down this cascade of, blood sugar issues, diabetes, which leads to poor wound healing, which leads to mobility issues. And it starts way before your lab work even reflects it, honestly. I feel like it starts with symptoms and people listening to their bodies and saying, like, I don't feel quite great when I eat this or when I do this. And I think a lot of Western medicine steers people away from that, from listening to
Yes.
themselves and reporting symptoms. It's a lot of like a numbers game. And like, if your numbers are fine, you're fine. Um, and a lot of the lab values that we see are based off of averages and not optimal. And so,
Mm,
your symptoms are valid, and I was kind of finding myself in that place too. Especially when I went to nursing school after I was an EMT, because it really pushed me. You're under a lot of stress. You're taking a
yeah.
lot of tests. You're not taking care of yourself. And so I gained a lot of weight. I was in not such a great relationship. And then my dad actually passed away while I was in
Mm,
nursing school. And when you're in your early 20s in that time, you just feel so invincible. You're like, I'm untouchable. I'm in great health. I can eat this, I can eat that. And, it doesn't matter. But when my dad passed away, it really showed me like, I was face to face with, my own mortality and was like,
Uh,
oh my God, I need to take it seriously because he was in his early 50s. So
wow, that's
he,
early. Yeah.
yeah, he shouldn't have been in a place
Mm.
where, he was sick or anything was really wrong with him. Um, but, he had just gone in for a colonoscopy and all his lab work was good. So that's very exemplary of like what I'm talking about with all the numerical
Ah,
values. And you go to a provider and everything's fine. But,
yeah.
he wasn't feeling great. So I think that's like a huge telltale sign of just like listening to your body. And so when that happened, I was kind of not
What
in the
did he pass?
best.
What did he pass away from, if you don't mind me asking?
He passed away in his sleep. So we think it's a heart attack, but we weren't quite sure. But he did kind of say like, I'm not really feeling that great a couple times. And I mean, all of his numbers were fine. He went to the
Yeah.
doctor. So it's like, it's hard to know.
Yeah.
But obviously we want people to listen to their bodies. And then I kind
Yes.
of realized like, oh, I'm not immortal, even though I'm 20, whatever, 22, 23, and I might think I am, I'm not.
Yeah.
Um, and, what can I do to be the healthiest version of myself? Because now I'm a nurse, now I'm taking care of other people. I need my vitality, my longevity, and I need to be counseling people on health while also exemplifying it and embodying it. So honestly, the first step for me was mindset and going to therapy and working with somebody that I really resonated with and working with my nervous system. And when that happened, everything else kind of cascaded and I was really listening to my body then. I got off birth control, which
Mm-hmm.
I it's hard to say like from a women's empowerment perspective, like birth control is terrible, which it really is, but
It is.
I always tell people if it's your only option and you're really at that point where it's your only option, I'm not one to shame anyone for
Correct.
being on birth control. I'm just here to educate and tell people because a lot of doctors prescribe it without full informed consent. Like it's a carcinogen, it changes your hormones. A lot of doctors are like,
And
here,
they don't explain the long-term implications on fertility,
right,
risks of the hormone imbalances, how you'll, like all of the negative side effects that come with
totally,
birth control, and
totally.
yeah, I relate to you. I got off of birth control in my 20s as well and
Yeah,
never looked back, but it is a responsibility, so
totally.
that's one
Yes,
thing where it's easy, even grown women I know that were like, I just want to be on it still, and we're not shaming. This is unabashed. We don't shame here. We
totally.
just are honest on our experience. So you can make up your own decisions. But I know women who are in their 40s are still on birth control because they just don't want the responsibility of tracking. They don't want to have the,
Yeah,
pain of a period every month. And it's like, 4 or 5 months, 6 months, nothing. And it's like, but they're so dysregulated.
totally, totally. And I think cycling every month is honestly a privilege. Like
Yeah.
my hormones are very balanced. Granted, I don't have endometriosis or PCOS. That's a completely different thing.
Yes.
But like for me, it's like an honor and a privilege because I know that I'm taking care of my body and my cycle is regular. And oftentimes it's with the moon cycle,
Yep.
it's with the full moon or the new moon. And so it's like, how cool is this that we're women and we get to like be in sync like that? It's just such a cool thing, honestly.
That's so fun. And it changes too. Like the cycling, if you ever notice where you are in your life when we do cycle syncing, it depends on if you're in a more inward moment in your life and what you're creating, or if you're in a more outward public expression. It depends on whether you'll sync up with like the full moon or the new moon. And that's
Totally.
been really powerful because I used to be full moon. And then now I've synced up the last several years with the new moon, and then
Interesting.
now I'm coming back just on the tail end of the full moon. So it's
Oh,
been really
wow.
interesting to notice when I was, in those phases, like after my doing my TED talk, it started coming back to the full moon, which was about, being out in the world more and public facing and public appearance. And so having an energy from the full moon versus being more
Yeah.
introspective when it's a new moon, it's darker, you go deeper right into the
Right.
womb space. So it's a lot
Totally.
more introspection and tends to be a lot more shedding that needs to happen in your, life. And I believe too, we shed everything that we've gone through in the last month, we shed, right?
Hmm.
Emotionally, spiritually, energetically, physically. And
Totally.
so, like you say, it is a privilege to be your own healer, your own,
Yeah.
priestess, doctor, whatever you want to call it, your
It's
own sage.
crazy. Yeah, you kind of feel like you're just working with nature at that point, which is so cool. And I
Yes.
have noticed, like you were saying, like I feel like my cycle does change, or it'll even double down 1 month so that my cycle switches moon
Yes.
cycles. And I'm like, okay, this is crazy because it's like you really feel like something's going on and you need to get quiet with yourself and kind of like listen and be like, what's about to happen? Like, is there about to be a big change or something? And normally it's spot on. So it's so
Yeah.
cool.
It's really cool. Yeah, it's really cool. I know we went off on a tangent about like getting
Yeah.
women off of birth control, but that's okay.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, basically my story, I got off birth control after I did all that nervous system regulation, and just like inner child work, therapy, all this stuff, EMDR. And I think that that's like sometimes a little bit shamed, like, oh, you go to therapy, whatever. And I think
Mm,
it's such a powerful thing to be able to say, like, I had even bad behaviors, bad mindset, whatever, and now I don't, and owning it and coming out on the other side. And so that's kind of what I did. And like after that, I just, really felt called to focus on my health, to focus on my bodily health. And I even, in my initial phases, went to like a weight loss clinic and they were prescribing like really harsh stimulants that would suppress your appetite. So you're basically like cracked out and you're not eating, which is terrible for you, terrible for your hormones. And so now I've found, I mean, for me, during my journey, it probably took 2 to 3 years longer than it would take me now or take me to coach somebody because I've done everything on myself.
yeah.
And so that's where, I obviously, as a nurse, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a prescriber, but what I do is more like I educate, I help coordinate, and I help people really hone in on their plans. I'm the intermediary between research, between providers. And so I have a little bit more one on one time spent with patients, talking them through things, than talking to their provider, than
Yes.
talking through their lab work. So it's like, I don't claim to be a doctor. What I do is very different, but I work with wonderful providers who have taught me so many wonderful things. And I just get to constantly learn on behalf of my patients, which is such a wonderful thing because it benefits me too, my family, my loved ones. And I'm constantly like, I just feel so empowered by being a helper. And so it's
Yeah.
like, if somebody asks me something, if I don't know it, I will figure it out or I'll find somebody who can figure it out. And I think like patients really appreciate that one-on-one, like, extra time, extra attention, extra help.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. And again, it feels so good to, like you said, you use the archetype of the helper, right? That's an actual archetype. It's like it feels so good to help people and know that you're making a difference in someone's lives, especially when it comes to their health or weight. The primary things that you support, or the primary clients that you support, are they women? Are they men and women? Are they?
Yeah, I work with a lot of women, and that's my passion. I work with a lot of men too, and I love it equally. I just, I feel like a lot of them really resonate with my journey. And then optimizing men and women are just it's such a different approach, right? And
Yes.
and it's even more individualized because even guys have different goals. Like I want to have better like sexual drive for my partner, or I want to a lot of like gym bros, which I love all gym bros and everyone equally, and like they want just pure performance muscle gains, and I think that's great. And then for women, I feel like a lot of women have so many individualized goals, and we
What are
see it.
some of the goal? What are some of the most common goals that you see with women, especially in this time now with like biohacking and peptides and longevity? What are like the primary goals that you see, like top five or top 10 goals?
Yeah, we see a lot of women. We get a lot of patients that have kind of been spun around and spit out by the Western medicine cycle. Like they've seen 85 different providers. They have an autoimmune condition. They're about to hit menopause or already have. They are low on energy, low on libido. They're, they have even aesthetic goals. Like I've noticed my hair's thinning. I've noticed, my skin is just not as plump as it used to be. And I think treating them holistically because, it's it's so it's so nuanced. Like, even your gut health, your hormones, your cellular energy levels, your insulin responsiveness or sensitivity, all of these things impact each other. And so if you don't treat them all at the same time, and you don't listen to the person, like our biggest thing is like we ask them when I check in with them week to week and when we get them as a patient, are you feeling okay? Because we could have everything great and it's like, okay, we love your lab work, we love your numbers, but if you feel like crap, tell me and we will adjust accordingly. So
Yeah.
we see a lot of women with those common complaints, and typically they're actually intertwined. It's like gut stuff is so intertwined with mental health because you produce a lot of your neurotransmitters from your gut. Your immune system is intertwined with your gut. Um, and your hormones depend on a lot of other precursors like your healthy fats, cholesterol, DHEA. So it's such a complicated web, and I think people feel really encouraged when they're not seeing a specialist for this, a specialist for that, and then they
Yeah.
go to their endocrinologist and they say this and they're already on this med, but then their primary care takes them off. And it's just, I think they feel like kind of whirled around. And to have
Yeah.
like, when I check in with my patients, we're really talking through things. And I think they appreciate that. And then I always speak with their provider. I always go back to their doctor and say, like, okay, here's what we spoke about, give them a synopsis. Here's what maybe could change. If they agree with me or disagree, then we're always talking about the client.
I love that. What if a client's more holistic, right? Like I know a lot of people, even myself included, I don't have like a specific doctor that I go to because they just, in my opinion, the ones that I've gone to are not the best. Like they just, even ones that
Totally.
I've gone to when I was in Colombia and I needed to do like an ultrasound or something, they were just like, I find that it's unfortunate. A lot of medical providers, not all, and this is a gross generalization, right?
Mhm.
And I own that, but I find a lot of providers are have a mindset of fear where it's
Yeah,
like this very fear-based mindset of like you need to do this and put you on all these different medications and this fear-based idea that you cannot heal holistically and naturally.
totally.
And I absolutely don't agree with that after healing
Totally.
myself from cervical cancer. I don't agree with so much of that mindset. And so I just don't go to a doctor for my physicals and checkups. I have doctor friends and we'll get blood
Right.
lab works and things like that. So I'm just curious because I know that I was came to you with my blood labs and I was like, hey, here's some of my blood labs that I did on my
Yeah.
own independently. And it was super helpful to go through the blood labs with you and
Right.
find out what things I can do to supplement, what things I can do to,
Yeah.
reverse certain things was really, really powerful. So do you do that as well with
Yeah.
other patients that necessarily aren't fully like going and dealing with a lot of the normal healthcare providers?
Totally. Totally. Yeah, we often have a lot of patients switch over to mainly just care with us. And obviously, like I'm a telehealth provider, and so like the only
Can you
thing.
tell the audience exactly more like what a telehealth provider is?
Yeah, so we service most 50 states and we ship, the company that I currently work with, we ship meds to your house. So we only see you on a video call. And the only pitfall to that is obviously like the in-person exams. And a lot of our patients will see, like women patients will see us and then their OB for physical exams.
Yes, I still see an OBGYN. I still
Right.
do. Yeah.
Right. And we actually help our patients if they do need to see somebody in person for something, we do help them advocate for themselves when they go to that provider. And so, like, if they don't feel like they're getting proper care, they're being shamed for transitioning off birth control, or we've even had providers refuse to remove IUDs. And
Wow.
so, like, which is totally like I didn't even know that that was a thing,
I didn't
but
know that's allowed, that you can like they can refuse to remove an IUD. Wow.
yeah, and so we help patients even advocate for themselves. So we try to re-centralize people's care in whatever way that looks for them. And we have a ton of people who are willing to only do holistic therapies. And what I do too is as a nurse and a coach, I help people with their supplement routine too. So
Mm-hmm.
even adjunct with their medications or just as a supplement routine, I help them kind of whittle down all of those and have them targeting goals and symptoms because a lot of the supplements that you see now are very salesy. And you could go on TikTok or Instagram ads and think you need 500 different things because
Yeah.
everyone's so good at marketing nowadays.
It's wild. Everyone's just and everyone pops up with a new brand and it's all white labeled and you're like, what?
Yeah,
Filled with a bunch of filler and a bunch of crap and things, and things like that. You're right. It's just like all over. Like we're in
totally.
definitely a society that is wanting to over optimize and
Yes,
wanting to biohack like every single thing. And, do
right.
you find that without the right education, right? Like someone in guidance like you, that there could there actually be a harm to taking too many supplements or wrong supplements, things like that?
Yeah, I mean, your liver processes all these things, including medications. So they can be hard on your body. And more than that, they can just be unnecessary. Like, you could just be totally wasting your money. And, like, obviously, with my clients, I don't want them to be wasting their money. I want them to do things that are measurable and purposeful. And so it's like, why overload your body? Something will claim that it's 200 times the dose of something, but then it's water soluble. So you're peeing it out. And so it's like, let's just talk about like what you're on and why. And I like for patients to feel like if I never saw them again after our last meeting, that they would feel like they kind of have a grasp on of what they're on, why they're on it, and what our rationale for certain things is. So I don't want to just send somebody a plan and be like, okay, do it. I want them to feel like, okay, I'm on this because of this. So if I ever take this, it'll also do this. And so people feel like they can really like take control of their health at that point, which is a really great feeling to see somebody, drop 50 pounds and just be glowing and feel like they're so happy. They're, more bonded with their partner because their hormones are better. And a lot of peptides are, more natural than medications. Like even for thyroid, we put people on NP thyroid or Armour thyroid, which is more natural than synthroid, which is synthetic.
Yeah.
And so, same with hormones. Like the company that I work for, they only prescribe bioidentical hormones, which are molecularly identical to what's currently in your body.
Mm.
And so your body recognizes them. They know what to do with them. They know, you kind of know what's going to happen, less side effects with these things, and they just become more bioavailable in your body. And then same with peptides, like they are sequences of amino acids, and amino acids are building blocks of proteins, and then they make your body make more of something like growth hormone peptides. They make your body make more growth hormone.
Mm-hmm. Which is a great thing. And I would say, like a caveat would be if you have something, right, like a tumor or there's cancerous cells or history, then I would say it's definitely a great idea to talk to someone and be guided before you would take
Totally.
a growth hormone. That's where I was mentioning like some things could really you could do more damage without having the education or the
Right.
guidance, of someone and not knowing what's happening in your body. But that's pretty amazing in regards of like the hormone mimicking compound. Is that used for women who are going through like premenopause or
Mhm.
through menopause that need to do more of like a hormone replacement therapy?
Yeah, yeah. And I was talking to a patient about this the other day, but it's hard because we're all in the same boat. Like women's hormones will all inevitably decline. And bioidentical hormones have way less side effects, and they're actually protective against a lot of diseases of aging, like, loss of bone density, loss of energy, a lot of like skin and hair stuff that women deal with, and libido stuff. And so it kind of in a big way takes away that like rhetoric of like you have to suffer through this. Like you don't have to
Mm.
suffer through it. There's a way to, and we're not preventing aging. That's not our goal, but it is definitely more of a longevity thing where we're helping you age gracefully and not feel terrible. So
Yeah.
like all of the like hot flashes and all of that, that is not necessary for you to go through that. You know, you can prevent that to some degree by taking bioidentical hormones. Um, and progesterone is a huge one. I mean, your estrogen to progesterone ratio is what one of the things that protects you against cancer. Um, and so having enough progesterone is so important for women. And a lot of like our society is very pro-inflammatory, has a ton of endocrine disruptors, and microplastics, and it's everything is working against us essentially.
Yeah.
Um, and so like one thing you can do to mitigate a lot of that is progesterone. And it makes you feel great. It's a calming hormone. And then we even have cool like biohacky hormones. Like
Mm.
we have oxytocin, which you
Oh my
and your
God, you have that
partner,
as a, oh yeah.
yeah, you and your partner can take that. And it's a bonding hormone. It makes you more loving, more empathetic.
Cuddly, snuggly,
Yeah.
relaxed. Yeah, we all love oxytocin, like a nice big warm hug.
Yeah. Yeah. And so taking that with your partner, and especially when you are, engaging in sexual acts, it's very bonding. You're like, warm,
You take that
fuzzy,
as
I
like a
love you.
pill, or you take that like I've never heard of someone taking oxytocin. I know of course, pleasure practices and like,
Right.
the self-pleasure practices to be able to naturally bring up and get into a state, where you are releasing oxytocin. But I have not heard of, besides like MDMA, where you
Yeah.
take something in couples therapy to be able to like get into that warm, fuzzy, natural state of,
Hmm.
pleasure, which MDMA is not necessarily natural, but it does
Yeah.
come from, sassafras, which is a root, which is natural. But so tell me about the oxytocin. I've never heard of this.
Yeah. It's just a nose spray, the one that I take. And which means it's quick acting, quick onset, and it's great. Like you definitely feel the effects right away, and it makes you feel just like really happy and euphoric and loving. And it's even good, like sometimes I take it when I know that I'm going to go into like a stressful situation because it helps with stress. It helps you be more empathetic. If you have like a meeting with your terrible boss, or whatever, you're more likely to see things from their side, be kind of like kind and a little bit more grounded when you
How
speak to
long does it
somebody.
last? How long does that last?
Just a couple of hours.
A couple of hours? That's a long time. I mean,
Yeah,
that's a good amount of time. And there's no negative downside effects because you're talking about oxytocin, not like a serotonin dump, like MDMA, things like that can have more of like or even like ketamine therapies, right? When we look at psychedelic
yeah,
therapies, there's definitely more of the serotonin dumping, which needs to then, replenish the serotonin receptors. What's the difference between, is there a downtime? Is there any negative side effects or things you need to supplement with the oxytocin to make sure, again, you're not off balance?
totally. I mean, I like to cycle on and off of it, so I'll do it only a couple days. I always like to have my body still be able to do its natural thing without supplementing things like that because they're not crucial. Like when you do bioidentical hormones, obviously you don't want to stop it, because, then it's kind of putting you on a roller coaster. But with adjunct things that are like fun to play with, I don't like to stay on them all the time because you still
Right.
want your body, you want to know your baseline, you want your body to do its own thing, and you don't want to like always be supplementing. And so I always cycle on and off things and give my body a break because I feel like that's so important.
I love this. This goes into the intro of you being your own guinea pig. What are some of the other fun things you've like experimented with? I'm like kind of blown away. I'm like, holy shit, you have like a nose spray of oxytocin. Like,
Yeah.
that's kind of cool,
Yeah.
Like, wow, that's interesting. What are some other fun things that, again, are not going to disrupt you that are also things that you can experiment with?
Yeah, I mean, I love the growth hormone peptides. Even for women, helps with muscle growth, which helps you have better blood sugar control because the more muscle you have on your person, the better blood sugar control you have.
You mean like CJC epimorelin, or do you mean
Yeah.
like which are the ones that you're referencing?
Yeah, I like the CJC ipamorelin, and then I like the samorelin. There's macemorelin, tesamorelin. Any of those are great. I always say, like what you were saying with the cancer risk and everything, like work with a provider,
Yep.
because it's so important. I mean, you might not need it. You might need something else. And so like getting lab work beforehand, it's so important because you want to do things for your money that are impactful.
Yeah. Do you find that women get a little bit puffy? Because I've tried CJC ipamorelin myself, and I liked it, but I didn't take it long enough. One, because I didn't do my bloods, and I wanted to make sure I didn't have any crazy inflammation things going on
Yeah.
that could contribute to that. But then two, another friend of mine who does biohacking says that she finds that when she puts it on with her clients, that the women tend to get a little bit bulky or a little bit puffy. So she
hmm
wasn't a big fan of it, but I'm curious what's your take on it? And if that is a case, is there an alternative one that women could take that would be supportive?
Yeah, I mean, I think it does make you a little puffy. It's so person dependent. For me, it definitely made me hold a little bit of extra water weight, which you kind of have to just know and be okay with. But especially for women, like for muscle growth and retention, testosterone is great.
Huh.
Supplementing testosterone, bioidentical testosterone is really good. We obviously take your levels, and so it's one of those things, again, if you don't need it, we don't give it to you. We
Yeah.
don't want to shoot your testosterone through the roof, but having adequate and optimal testosterone levels, even for women, is one of those things where it's like just doing that, then you don't need anything else. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and so anything else would be additive. And so there are women who want to do the bare basics, more natural, you know, anything like kind of just rudimentary. They just want their six supplements and their three things. And I love working with people like that because I can really help them narrow that down. And then I
Yeah.
have some patients that are super adherent. They want to take 150 million things. They're always sending me articles. And I love that too, but it's just different schools of thought. And so, like, the people who want to do less and have a more basic approach, testosterone, people that want more, testosterone and cycling growth hormone. And you can even use growth hormone peptides and a GLP. And I know GLPs are very polarizing. Like we've
Well,
seen
it's
a lot
very
of,
big. It's very big right now. It's
yeah,
huge. It's like there's, Ozempic, there's what's the other ones? There's I
yeah,
can't even think
Wegovy,
of.
Manjaro. Yeah,
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 yeah, big thing. I think Oprah also was saying publicly that she's so grateful because she went on to, I think it was a GLP one or two or three. I don't remember what she went on. I think it was Ozempic maybe, but she did a
yeah.
GLP one and she lost tons of weight and she struggled with it her whole life, but she was guided. And the key
Mm-hmm.
thing too wasn't just the peptides. And I want to make sure I highlight that. And I'll give my own example as well, is like
Mm-hmm.
doing peptides is great, but if you do not continue to regulate your nervous system and don't eat really good and a healthy diet and make sure you're working out, then it absolutely can become a crutch and something super dependable that you depend on. And I don't know your opinion, but I have a belief that it could be unhealthy in the long run
Yeah,
because some of these make you not eat and not take care of yourself, but you kind of look skinny, but you may not actually be healthy and like vital. What's your opinion
yeah.
on that?
Yeah, I totally agree. And we see a lot of abuse of these peptides. And I think we've seen a lot of abuse of Ozempic and those medications. But again, working with a provider that is knowledgeable really helps mitigate that. And what I've found great results with is the Ozempic and Wegovy, those name brands often come in an auto injector where you can't titrate your dosing. And so when
Mm,
you get it in a vial and you work with somebody who knows what they're doing, you can titrate it to exactly the right dose where you're not
yes.
losing too much weight. Because really, we want to help you, but we don't want you to lose more than 2 to 3 pounds a week. Even that
Yeah.
is like pushing it.
Yeah.
We want you to like gain better blood sugar control because it's really sensitizing your insulin again. And so it's like, we want you to have better blood sugar control, better eating habits. And it can help people, turn off that part of their brain with emotional eating or like addiction. Really helps people with emotional eating and addiction to certain behaviors like that with food. Because it kind of changes the way you think about food and the way you behave towards food. So it's a
That's
very
powerful.
powerful, yeah, it's a very powerful tool. And a lot of things that we see nowadays, health related, are insulin driven.
Mm.
So when you have insulin resistance, you have a lot of inflammation typically. You have a lot of,
What does that exactly mean? Insulin resistance. What does that actually mean for those that like myself? I kind of know what it means, but I'm sure people are like, what does that mean? So we're gonna save you looking it up on chat and we'll tell you real quick, what does it mean?
yeah, so over time, if your blood sugar is constantly spiking and your insulin has to kick in and lower it, which is what happens, it's like your typical digestion cycle. Your blood sugar spikes, which is normal, but you don't want to chronically spike it and then your insulin has to react. Chronically spike it, insulin react. So the more your insulin is having to react to high blood sugar, the more it is like, okay, let's go, let's go, let's go. And it
Oh
eventually
yeah.
tires out. Like your receptors eventually become exhausted.
Yeah.
And so your insulin over time isn't as reactive or isn't as sensitive. Um, and so we want your insulin to be ready to go, but not constantly stimulated.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. And that's really helpful for being able to, I would imagine as well, right? Like not feeling burnt out, not feeling on edge, like not having your
Yeah.
body constantly in this state of like, let's go, let's go, let's go.
Totally, totally. Yeah, and insulin and cortisol even have a relationship, which cortisol is your stress hormone.
Yeah.
When you're stressed, your blood sugar levels become elevated and your insulin's reacting. So like your
And
body
then you
kind of,
stress eat and then like
right?
you try to say regulate what you just ate and the ice cream and then the donuts and and then
Totally.
sometimes you're stressed and then you'll maybe take a puff or you'll get a glass of wine and then you'll go
Yeah.
again and then suddenly you're like your body's really working in on overtime when it's craving the opposite of that, right?
Totally, totally. And that's one of the main like causes of that we see of like premature health issues is like inflammation, chronic stress, which is definitely a mindset thing. Like you have to address your mindset, your habits. I mean, and none of us are perfect. Like even for me, I got in a really bad rut where I was working too much, not a lot of sunlight. Your circadian rhythm is one of the most important things that you have, and I got kind of like spun out with little sleep. I was in a bad mood, grumpy, not being grateful, not sitting in gratitude, not grounded. And it took me one day, and I was really mindful of my habits in that 24 hours. Woke up to the sun against my will. I didn't want to. Woke up to the sun, stared at the sunlight, talked about what I was grateful for before getting on my phone, winding down, not consuming blue light, slept really well, did it all over again, and it was like I was a full new person. Um,
Whole new human again.
yeah. Yeah. So, like, we often couple a lot of mindset shifts and behavioral shifts, circadian rhythm, because for my clients, and
Well,
I,
and
oh
gratitude, I
my
heard you
gosh,
say as well,
yes,
which you can call it spiritual, you can call it mindset, but
yeah,
the things that I heard you say were very simple for those that are listening, the audience, if you really heard what she said to regulate herself was getting up against her will, again, like the mindset of like, I'm gonna get up,
right,
and then making sure you like were in the sun, you took care of yourself. You also were tracking, you were present with your day. You were aware of your
totally.
thoughts, your behaviors, and your actions. So you were intentionally co creating with your life, with your day. And then
Hmm.
speaking those words of gratitude out loud, of course, puts you in a better, higher state. And that amplifies awareness, and then going to bed
Totally.
earlier and having no blue light. Like just highlighting for those listening that are maybe, in other countries that maybe don't have access to all these things, it's still simple to use the elements of nature
Hmm.
to biohack your system back into a good state and good health.
Totally. You can buy all of these grounding frequency machines, or you can go stand with your bare feet on the earth. It's like
Yeah.
it's just a difference in, honestly, access. But like
Hmm.
you said, you can do a lot of things. Like even if you don't have the money or access to hormone replacement therapy, there are things like eating really healthy fats, optimizing liver health, lowering inflammation. Like there are a lot of things that you can do that are adjunct. Obviously, like bioidentical hormones are the gold standard, but it's like I don't I don't think that anything is impossible or inaccessible. I think that there's just different routes and
Yeah.
different, there obviously one route is quicker, one route is, slower, but it's like there's in any route that somebody chooses, there's no wrong way to do something.
It's just like life. It reminds me of, like, again, like the different paths of yoga, the different paths to enlightenment. There's a gazillion different doorways to get to a state of enlightenment. It's just
Totally.
the same path, and some take longer, some are slower. Some meditation practices you do your whole life and you don't get to enlightenment. Some tantric practices you do and you have a kundalini awakening and you're like, "Oh my gosh." And then you got to integrate. It's like
Totally.
but I love what you're saying and tying it all together. It's like it's choosing a path of health and wellness and
Mhm.
going at your own pace and staying focused. And I use the word devotion a lot because motivation, I find, as well, is like in my own journey, I'll say, like, I've been motivated to meditate when I first started motivated, getting motivated. And then I lost my motivation and then I wouldn't meditate, or
Right.
I had motivation to get up before the sunrise, and I would do my satna in the morning for 40 days. And I was like so in it. And then I'm like, I don't have the motivation to get up. But when there's devotion, there's something from that I find is so much bigger than motivation, because it's an identity of, I'm someone who's devoted, willing, beyond committed to accomplishing and showing up for this with my
Yeah.
habits, my mindset. So it invokes a feeling. And then over time, with that devotion, it's like I just got to get myself out of the bed and on my meditation mat. And then my body remembers, oh, this is where we meditate. And then it becomes
Yeah.
effortless, and similarly, right? I would say, I'm working with that right now, going to the gym almost every day. I was like, I almost didn't get there today. And
Awesome.
I was like, fuck, I'm so tired, but I'm going to get there. Right. And then I got there, and then my body was just like, do this, do that, go there, go there. I was like, huh, I love you. Just get myself into the space, just
You're like,
get
I got
into,
this.
yeah, just
Yeah.
get into the space. And same thing,
Totally.
even again with supplements. I will say that, I got my blood labs done and I'm in great health. I do have low iron and anemia, which runs in my family. But I would say at the same time, not freaking out over it. I was like, okay, what can we do to, supplement it and notice where am I actually, and you use a really great word, which I hadn't heard of or really known of until I was doing a deeper dive, which is bioavailable. And I didn't
Hmm.
realize how many supplements or things I was taking, but that weren't bioavailable to my body to actually like receive it. And so talking
Totally.
about spirituality and biohacking, which I've
Hmm.
never heard of anyone talk about until right now, because I'm getting the download, is like
Yeah.
a part of me somatically in my body, right, might have been blocking receiving, right? Like, so my
Totally.
body couldn't actually receive the vitamins and the nutrients it really needed on some
Yeah.
level, conscious or subconscious. There was a blockage that was happening. And so
Hmm.
to be able to supplement with something where it was more bioavailable, my body had a way better chance of receiving. And I'm thinking to myself
Awesome.
every time I like take that, the supplement you recommended, I always think to myself, wow, I'm a great receiver. And it's so
Yeah.
silly, but it also has shifted the conversations I'm having with people, the teachers and lessons that are actually coming into my life this year already, which is focusing on, I'm a great receiver, but wow, on a like biochemical level, did I not realize that my body was not actually in a state of being able to receive like deep
Totally.
nutrients? And so I'm like,
Totally.
whoa, my mind was blown by that.
Yeah, and I love how like excited like it almost seems like you're excited to have the opportunity to like heal and do all of this, which is such a great mindset shift because like you were talking about a lot of the fear-based like Western medicine stuff. It's so important. Like we take it as like, okay, here's an opportunity to feel better here. Here's an opportunity here. So it's such a good mindset shift. And like, I love merging spirituality and biohacking. I was so fortunate to grow up with like my family being really open minded with that. And my grandma was really a pioneer of like health and spirituality. She's a professional, like kind of a psychic medium, but more of like a psychic therapist, which is
Yeah.
pretty darn cool.
Yeah, that's
Um,
so cool. Do you have
she's
any of
literally,
those gifts too? Do you have any of those psychic gifts? I have some psychic abilities, but I'm wondering if you do.
yeah, I feel like I do. I feel like I am really in tune with my body and
Yeah.
other people's. Like I can kind of sometimes tell, what somebody needs or whatever, or I have intuition. And like obviously I'm not practicing medicine with intuition, but
Yeah.
like, it's a good adjunct tool. And sometimes I will like incorporate that. And I feel like biohacking is such a cool thing because you have the opportunity to optimize your frequency and it's a self-love
Yes.
practice.
Woo.
So it's
I
like
love that.
you're elevating your frequency. You're taking things that align with you. Like if somebody holds a supplement and they're like, I just really don't want to take this. I'm like, then don't take it. Don't take it because you are somehow listening to your body and holding something that is not aligning with your frequency. So don't take it.
Yes.
And I think everyone should listen to their bodies and listen to themselves. And that's why we treat with lab work, with symptoms, with a full picture, and we want people to listen to their bodies. And so it's like biohacking really crosses over into like merging medicine with spirituality because you love yourself so much that you want to be the best that you can be. And all of this doesn't really work if your mindset is not good, if you're not grounded. Like you could have a GLP, lose weight, look the exact way you want, but still not be happy. And so
Yes.
you have to, and sometimes we get patients in our practice with mental health issues. And I'm like, okay, are you doing gratitude practices? Are you seeing sunlight daily? Are you on your screen consuming like stressful content all day? Are you in a
Mm-hmm.
stressful job that you hate? Like,
Are
what
you
are,
dancing? Are you moving
right?
your body? Are you
Are you around
looking in the
friends?
mirror? Are you around friends?
Yeah,
Community is immunity. Like,
yeah,
yes, I love that you do
yeah.
that with the clients. Yeah.
And we're in a very like we're in a society that really encourages like isolation and for people to be miserable, honestly. And
Yeah,
so
because big pharma makes money off of it, social media
yeah,
makes money off of it, and the beauty industry makes a lot of money off of it if we
yeah,
feel like we're alone, ugly, and are not worthy, and we're
yeah,
aging as women. It's like we're the perfect, subject for them to
yeah,
then coerce and target, and then we
yeah,
believe it. And
totally.
that's where I see so much going. And which is why it's a blessing that we're having this conversation, especially at the cutting edge now with like all of these optimizing opportunities. And that's what I
Yeah.
call it. It's an optimizing opportunity. My partner name loves optimizing fucking everything. I have never optimized for shit, never in my life. And I've been super successful. So we're like flipped, where this year he's learning how to like not optimize for everything and like go into the mystery and like be in the unknown more. And then I'm learning
Yeah.
to like optimize a little bit more,
Yeah. Yeah,
So
you
it's
have to be
fun.
okay with yourself too. You can't like I am definitely a perfectionist, which I think
I'm a
perfectionism.
recovering perfectionist. I'm not a
Yeah.
perfectionist. I'm a recovering perfectionist. You
Yeah.
can join that club too, Corey. You could become a recovering perfectionist this year. This could
I'm
be
trying
your
I'm
year of
trying to
pleasure.
decide I'm trying to decide which way I want to go. Sometimes I like believe very strongly in duality where I'm like embracing it and accepting it and not like beating yourself up about it and like just kind of like leaning into it for a little bit will create acceptance of something and then you'll be like, okay, I'm kind of cool. Now I don't have to do all of this. So like,
Yeah, well, duality is a very real thing, just like polarity is a very real thing. Light and dark. We have the sun and we have the moon. We do have masculine and we do have feminine. Without
mhm,
the difference, like a magnet, we wouldn't have that polarity. Same thing with us, but
totally.
I find that we have a light and a shadow side expression of that. So like when I say I'm a recovering perfectionist, it's like I intentionally do not let her run the show or run the bus at all. And
Yeah.
when I find that she's shown up, I accept her, I love her, but then I'm like, what is she needing? And usually the inner
That's amazing.
perfectionist is needing certainty. She's needing to feel like this, she is certain that what she's going to do is going to be successful, that it's going to work, that it's going to
Oh
be
gosh.
delivered, right? And so that actually, that level of like gripping and certainty creates more stress in the body and in the nervous system, and there's more
Mm,
gripping. And so, hence, where I notice I accept that she's there, but I
mm.
never let her run the bus. And I'm like, I take deep breaths, I tell her that I love her, and then I let her go. Right.
That's very, very deep. Yeah. I
Yeah.
resonate with that a lot.
Yeah. And she, again, that is the dance of polarity and knowing both exist, but it's consciously choosing who's going to be in the top frequency and running the show. And there
Totally.
may be a moment when I'm doing a presentation like I was doing for this high level women's group. And she was like, out. She was like wanting every little detail to be right. And then that part of me, right? And again, I'm just speaking very candidly, would be like, you got to finish this and you're not going to go watch the sunset. And that's where I'm
Mm,
like, no, girl, I'm more devoted to enjoying the pleasure of the sky turning pink and cotton candy and like walking outside and being like, good job. You did a great job. This was enough than pouring away to get it perfect and right on the screen and then feeling exhausted at the end of the day. Like,
yeah.
that's a big difference for me because I know if
I
I
love
continue
that.
to let her run, the little Miss Perfectionist, as I call her, little Miss Pretty Perf, then that also ruins and runs into my relationship. Then
Totally.
that's like a piece where it's like, okay, I need him to be perfect. I need to be perfect. The situation needs to
Totally.
be perfect. The smell in the bedroom, like, needs to be perfect before I can allow myself to have sex and let go. It was like there were all these ways that once I started to track where she was running the show, I could see where I was giving my power away and also my happiness away. So that's why I say I invite you to
Gosh.
like invite little Miss Recovered
That's
Perfectionist into the
amazing.
mix.
Yeah, no, that's so insightful. That's awesome. Yeah, I definitely resonate with that a lot. And I think too, you talking about that, like projecting onto your partner, I think that's so important to talk about like mindset shifts, hormones, optimization as a couple. And I know we've spoken about this before, but like when you are not optimizing as a couple, there does create it does create some distance.
Yes.
Or it can. It doesn't have to, obviously.
Well,
But
it
like,
puts you up on a little bit of a different path. And I love that we're bringing it into this because, that's something that me and my soon to be husband talked about was like, we're going to start this as a journey together. Similarly with Tantra or spirituality. And I find that all the time when women are like, I'm spiritual, but my husband or partner isn't, or he's not open to it. It's like, there's always this kind of underspoken rift where you don't understand each other's worlds because you're not on the same trajectory. It doesn't mean you don't love each other, but it does, from what I've seen of coaching women for 15 years, it does create a dissonance
mhm,
and it does create some sort of distance. And it doesn't have to
yeah,
always be that way, or it doesn't have to be a big gap, but it's different than when you guys go on a path together, a
totally.
trajectory together. It makes it
Yeah.
better, it makes it more fun in my experience and more
Yeah.
accountable.
Yeah. You're so right. I think like what we see is and it's really cute, but we see this in our practice where women tend to be a lot more proactive. That's just a generalization.
Same thing in sex, same thing in relationship counseling, same thing
Yeah.
getting them to read books and go on retreats. That's why I always say women are the leaders when it comes to relationship. We
Yeah.
go first. We do. We see it all the time. This
Yeah.
is a
Yeah.
fact. This
And
is a
so
fact.
we see these women that are like seeing such great results with us and they're so happy and then they bring their husbands along and their husbands are kind of like okay whatever she says and it's really sweet and endearing and like we love when couples come to us normally the woman is first but not always sometimes it is the man
Naeem was
um
first. My partner
yeah
was first when it came to this. He
yeah
brought it to me. I was like, okay,
totally.
let's do that.
Yeah, and I think when you start to enjoy something together, especially hormones, because there becomes this huge rift between men and women sometimes when women are hitting menopause, or there sometimes are issues throughout our life cycle with we're PMSing and then we're ovulating and then we're really this at some point and then we're really this at another point. And it's like some men don't necessarily know how to handle that.
Yeah,
Um,
well, we have the four seasons in our sexuality as well,
yeah,
right? So we go through these four different seasons when we're really active, and I can go into another episode, but we have the seasons, and they don't know how to navigate being with
yeah,
us as the weather itself. I use that
totally.
analogy, like, we are the weather.
Yeah, yeah. But I feel like the more testosterone men have, obviously you don't want to set them way, way, way over, but the more
Correct.
testosterone and there are optimal levels of testosterone where it's like, the LabCorp average values don't necessarily reflect that very well, because the averages over the last 40 years have kind of crept down.
They've
Um,
skyrocketed downward. Yeah, I
yeah,
had a friend of mine who really speaks about the epidemic of men having such low testosterone, from the microplastics to
yeah,
also like porn and porn addiction, and
totally.
like not working out, not being strong men, and that's been a really big epidemic of men not being able to have actual good bioavailable testosterone.
Right, right. And I feel like that makes them the grounded men in those roles that they should be, the relationship roles that they should have when you're in a healthy relationship. And so, like, when women are optimized, their feminizing hormones are optimized and their testosterone, and then men's, testosterone is optimized. It's such a great, like, thing for couples. Usually their libidos are more matching, because that can be a big thing for women hitting menopause.
That's a really big thing too, just for women in general, with the orgasm gap, right?
Yeah,
It's like there's a percentage of like 65% of women are unhappy and unsatisfied within their sex life, like
yeah,
65%, and it's continually rising. And
yeah,
without men optimizing and having a sex drive, I believe that they won't have an interest in learning more about female pleasure in order to please their woman, right? Because
totally.
there's that primal, when a man is like optimal tease, he's primal, he's like
Hmm.
wanting, he's more sexually hunger, and that
Yeah,
sexual hunger creates sexual curiosity, so he's willing
totally.
to do more research and action on that, which I think is amazing. We need that.
Yeah.
I'm like, yes.
Absolutely. And there's a lot of shame for men in their sexual experiences. Like if they can't get an erection or they feel like their performance is different than what they'd like it to be, that is not talked about a lot. And it's very shame driven for men where it's like a spiral and they kind of get like in their head and then it gets worse and then they feel terrible and emasculated. And so like what we do is optimizing their hormones. And we even will put them on, low dose Viagra, and that helps with their like vascularity. It's a vasodilator, so it dilates all of your blood vessels. So it gives you more vasculature. You get gains from the gym. Guys love that, but it also helps with your, abilities. And that
Is there
can,
is there a natural thing that you can have instead of doing like a low grade of Viagra, like that would work as like a peptide for men, or a supplement that they could take that would help boost that for them?
yeah, I mean, the peptide melanotan is a little bit of a systemic vasodilator, so you'll be tan and vascular. Melanotan is like the tanning peptide, so you'll be tan, you'll be vascular. There are other ones, I can't think of their names right now. They're not super common for us to use. In our practice, we will use repurposed meds with like little to no side effects if appropriate for the patient. So our
Yeah.
goal is not to put somebody on 500 meds like a typical Western medicine doc. But we do use some repurposed medications, and medications were made off of the backs of herbal medicine way back when. And so, like, some medications just kind of like cut out the middleman and do it a little bit more potent and better. And so, I'm not anti medication, it's just the patient's goals, whether they want to take a med or not. But the meds that we use have very low side effects, little to none, especially if it's, like I said, appropriate for that person. We would
Right.
never put someone on something where we're like, you could do this or this. I don't know, like
Yeah.
we're very decisive about what we put people on, and we're using it only for optimization, health, and longevity. So the tadalafil is what it's called, is great at low doses for men. And actually, a lot of times we prefer that over a blood pressure medication or a blood thinner if you have really high cardiovascular risk, because it dilates all of your blood vessels. And then a big driver of cardiovascular risk is inflammation. So
Yeah.
we try to address that.
That's
Um,
wonderful. That's really, really powerful. And so that's yeah, that's really insightful. And then I would also say on the opposite side for the women that I notice and see right within my coaching practice of women, like, and you said it a little bit earlier as well, like
mhm,
that I see like kind of it in a way, like to use another term, an epidemic of women who have a lot of autoimmune challenges. Like I was with some girlfriends this week and almost half of them had autoimmune challenges, whether it was SIBO or stress, or they had leaky gut, or they were like just chronically in a brain fog and sick. And some of these are, women who are coaches in the field of like sacred sexuality. Some of them are lawyers. And it's like, I find that, and even in my practice, women come in and they're feeling burnt out and they're feeling exhausted, and like they do supplement and they do eat well, but they're just, their vitality level, their aliveness, right, isn't there. One, they're not feeling sexual desire to really go for it, or they have it but it's been closed and locked up. So of course we work on mindset, we work on the emotions, we work on any like traumas or things in the body, and start getting them to use self pleasure, self touch as a practice, as well as breath and movement and dance. But I'm also again wondering, from your perspective, what would be like some, and I've told them that I've taken I started taking NAD plus now that
mhm,
you and I spoke as well.
yeah,
And I've been noticing just again more energy and more aliveness in my cells. So I've
yeah,
shared that that's what I've done. And I've shared if they want to talk to you, they can do that as well. But I'm curious on the feminine side, with
mhm,
so many women, with this reversed role of being the breadwinners and being lawyers and doctors, and we can do anything we want. And there's like this
mhm.
this soft girl power era because everyone's so fucking tired. I don't think it's just to like rest and take a long sabbatical forever. It's like we could, but I still don't think they're kind of getting to the root of the issue. I think pleasure and embodiment practices can do a lot. But I
Yeah.
also think, again, with that Eastern medicine of energy and getting your chi and getting yourself moving, it's important to include also the Western piece of like what's going
Mhm.
on in the body itself and how we can help support, you know,
Absolutely.
ourselves. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you mind if we pause 1 second? I just have to get my charger. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Autoimmune patients are actually some of my very favorite to treat. I love working with women with autoimmune issues because it's such a cascade that's not widely recognized in the typical, you go to your OBGYN or your primary care provider to talk about hormones. And it's not to knock those providers. I just don't think, like, even for me in nursing school, or even the providers that I work with in their schooling, they just didn't learn about them.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't learn about hormones as much. They didn't learn hormones in depth. They didn't learn about bioidentical hormones in depth. So they have some good baseline knowledge, but you really have to seek out that knowledge, for your patients. And so, like, I, coming out of nursing school, had no idea about any of this stuff. It just took like advocacy and patients needing something for me to, work with providers and find providers who know what they're doing. And so, like, really with autoimmune conditions, we see this depletion of your person. We
Mm,
see a depletion of energy, vitality, like you were saying. Sometimes we see it, there's like this circular picture, and sometimes we see a hit to one side of that, circle. We see something take a hit. You're really stressed, so your adrenals, your are burnout, and your blood sugar is, high, or you're stress eating, and then your blood sugar is really high, and it triggers inflammation, and it makes you, manifest that autoimmune disorder.
mm,
Or emotional stress, or It's any number of things. Even we see it when people are kind of about to hit menopause. They kind of like lose their hormones, which is a big sense of vitality, and so then it can manifest then.
Sounds like,
Um,
again, stress is a huge triggering factor, which is
yeah,
why we're, again, restating the importance
yeah,
of positive, healthy mindset and spiritual practices. Like, again, we're not saying you can
totally.
reverse everything, but like, if you're really listening to what we're talking about and what you said, it's like
Hmm.
stress is a killer. It really is
Totally.
a killer.
Totally. And even we see that stress eating, it messes up your gut. Or when your cortisol is chronically elevated, it does have some implications on your immune function. And so you get sick, you get, whatever strep throat, whatever, you have to go get antibiotics. Then
Yeah.
your gut health is hit. And then that affects your mental health, and then you have less stress reserves. So it's a huge, like, grouping of things that we have to treat simultaneously,
Yeah.
being like gut health, inflammation, cellular energy, hormones. And so, like, we'll do a GI map on a lot of those patients, and we'll see that they're, and leaky gut is a term that's really thrown around in the integrative medicine community,
Yeah.
which is why we like to do a GI map. And the people that truly have leaky gut, you can see them leaking their immune system through their gut.
Mm,
Their immunoglobulins are low, their zonulin is really high, which is, that is like what makes up your gut
wow, that's
permeability.
fascinating. Yeah.
So their gut is more permeable. They're leaking their immune system through their gut. They might have several pathogens. They might have candida. They might have, um, H. pylori. And so they have these bad pathogens that have overtaken their gut. Their immune system isn't working. And so, like, a lot of times you have to address gut health by wiping everything out and re-inoculating your gut, essentially. And then you have to address inflammation, which is intertwined with your blood sugar, liver
Wait,
health.
so is autoimmune related primarily to the gut, to your gut health? Is that what I'm hearing?
It can be.
Okay.
It's kind of like a cascade where, like, your gut health really impacts your immune system, and your autoimmune disorder, whatever it is, an overactivation of your immune system. Your immune system is attacking healthy tissues.
Right.
Um, whether it's like your thyroid or your joints, or you have psoriasis and it's like, manifesting on the outside. It's really like your body is attacking itself. And so,
Yeah.
like, your gut and your immune system are so important. Inflammation, and typically it's like hard to get out of. Like, if you don't supplement one thing in this circular cascade, you have a hard time recovering because it takes your body's whole might to recover. Your hormones, your gut, everything needs to be working. And so
But
we try to address it all at the same time.
what would be some things that you've seen some really great results on, whether it's peptides or supplements for what you just mentioned, like someone
Yeah,
who's dealing with like thyroid attacking itself or psoriasis or
yeah,
like the things that you just mentioned. Would you recommend, or, and again, you're not a doctor, you're not prescribing, we're just
yeah,
having the conversation,
yeah.
would you recommend like that NAD plus is a good thing? Would you
Hmm.
recommend like fermented food? Like, what would you actually recommend for someone who is trying to start on the journey, like who's on the journey or who and has tried a bunch of different things? Maybe they've had
Yeah,
SIBO and then they're working with their gut health to clear it,
yeah,
but they still have psoriasis or their thyroid's attacking itself. Like, what
right.
what would be like some of the things that would help bring more, I guess, vitality to start to maybe reverse and start to help or at least supplement to support the body?
Yeah, I can give you kind of an example patient. So we had a lady come in her, menopausal, time period in her life where her hormones were tanking. She wasn't feeling great. She also had an autoimmune condition. And what we saw initially in her labs were low hormones. Her immune system was really not working. So her immunoglobulins were low. Her immune system, she was technically to some degree immunocompromised.
Mm.
And then her autoimmune condition, her thyroid antibodies for Hashimoto's were way, way, way up. And what we saw is we did, a GI map. So we mapped out her gut, and that kind of helped tell us, you know, she had leaky gut, she had some pathogens, So we supplemented some natural thyroid hormone. We helped her the rest of her hormones, estrogen, progesterone, testosterone. We did give her some NAD, some cellular energy to help her recover. And then we gave her some glutathione to help optimize her liver. We gave her a GLP because one of the things on her labs was her A1C was high, her insulin wasn't very sensitive. And so it wasn't, she was very thin, so it wasn't of the purpose of weight loss. It was a microdose to
Mm,
help resensitize her insulin, to bring down systemic inflammation. So one great thing about GLPs is they're very anti-inflammatory.
mm.
And we're finding that more and more, where like microdosing them is one of the best things that you can do generally for your health,
Mm.
which is
That's
not a weight
powerful.
loss dose. Um, and then, after that, we wiped out her gut. We re-inoculated her. She had a little bit of parasites, a little bit of everything, bacterial, the whole gamut. And we resealed her gut with a lot of supplements. We have like provider protocoled supplements that you can't just order on your own.
Yep.
And with all of that, she had her initial hit to that circle, like we were talking about, was mold exposure. Um,
Wow.
and so that
Yeah.
can really mess you up. That can make your immune system overreact. And she really had not a ton of immune reserves, like her gut, her immune system in her gut was really suffering. And so we changed all of that for her. And then the end thing was she did a little bit of plasmapheresis under a different provider. And this is where I come in helping her coordinate between providers. She did some plasmapheresis, which removes a lot of like mold, heavy metals, microplastics. And now she's like literally untestable. Like when you do her bloods, she does not test as somebody who has an
Wow.
autoimmune condition. And she's like, I feel so great. And it's this typical thing of like people having such great results, they bring their partners in, and I just love that when they follow suit. I'm like, welcome. Like it's so exciting that like people are so excited about us. It's such a great feeling.
Yeah. And
And
you're
so
helping them so much. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So I would say working with a provider who listens and working with somebody who can help coordinate your care. Um, and like I serve as that intermediary, that's where you can have a lot of success. And so it's just such an exciting job for me to get to do, and like such an honor for people to trust me with their health.
Yeah, yeah. And you're such a sweetheart. You're
Thank
so
you.
smart, you're so educated. And again, like I love that you have the holistic approach to it as well. So you can really see it from a bigger picture. And if people who are listening are interested in working with you, how can they find you? Where can they find you?
Yeah, so I'm at Court Cash Wellness on all social media, so Instagram, TikTok, and my email is courtcashwellness@gmail.com. And so
Great.
you can just message me, or I have like a link tree in all of those social media platforms where you can book an initial consult, where we kind of like figure out if we're a good fit for each other. Some people are like way advanced and they don't even need any help. I'm like, you got this. Like you don't need me. So, we can just figure out if we're a good fit. Because of course I like working with people who are excited and
Yes.
we're a good fit to work together. And then
Yeah.
I'll have you get your lab work and work with one of my providers that I work with. Um, and then we can kind of go from there. But like getting intro lab work or even coming in with lab work like you did, you were so proactive. You had like the most comprehensive lab panel that I've ever seen. I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Um,
High achiever over here. High achiever. Yeah, we got 21 blood panels. I
oh
was
my
so
gosh.
tired. I was so exhausted. Oh my God. Had no
You had
clue.
nothing left.
Yeah, literally nothing left. And that made sense. So I
Yeah.
was like, I know something's going on. And again, that was even before I spoke to you after I did it for 2 days. I would get cold shivers in the afternoon and I was like, something's off. Something must be going on in my blood. And then it came out like I'm anemic and my ferritin level was, which is like the iron reserve, as I educated
Yeah.
myself, is a 5 when it's supposed to be between 70 to 100. So it's like my body is not receiving the iron and
Yeah.
like storing it, and it's causing all these other cascading effects. And it's like, like let's go, you know. So
Right.
it was yeah, I was like, I knew something was going on, to your point of like, I could tell because I'm attuned. And then it was great to have the
Right.
biomarkers to back it up, and then speak to
Totally.
someone like you who, you know, was a great guide in supplementing and what I could supplement. And again, I'll test, like, if I don't need it, you'll tell me you don't need to get this. Like, you
Yeah,
don't need
totally.
that. Wait on this, do that, you know. And we've
Right.
only just started to kind of, you know, scratch the surface. And I think it's a really great opportunity for anyone who's listening. It's like, to notice how great and very like symbiotic the work is that we're doing, because
Mhm.
it's like the emotional, mental, spiritual side, and also like the sexual connection side of actual depth and intimacy is amazing, and could do all that stuff. But if your body, like your actual, like the chemistry, the molecule, the cells, like if you're actually
Mhm.
not physically healthy and well, all
Totally.
that stuff's going to be so much more harder to have the energy to show up to do. And it's harder if one partner is struggling with a health condition and the
Mhm.
other one's not, and you don't know what to do. It really does, you know, negatively impact the quality of the relationship and the quality of your
Yeah.
sex life and the life you can create together.
Yeah, and I think all of my patients would probably benefit, including myself, would benefit from a couple sessions at least with you, because I feel like a lot of even what you shared today with your mindset shifts, self-love, and a lot of like the partnership like practices is so helpful, and it's so ingrained in us to not partake in those.
Yeah.
Like don't seek pleasure, don't do this, don't do that. Like we live in a very shame-based society around health and all of that stuff. And so I feel like you and
Which is
I,
still health. It's still
yeah,
health. It's the health arena, but it's
totally.
not the regular kind of westernized health. You don't think of that as health, but it's sexual health.
Mhm.
Pleasure is such a huge vital role to especially feminine health, feminine pleasure for women. Again, it really combats the stress. It
Mhm.
really combats the very masculinized world that we're lived in and we're conditioned in and we're walking around in. It's so crucial and essential, I find, which is why, you know, it's my mission and devoted my life to like helping women experience deep amounts of pleasure, because that
Mhm.
pleasure really ripples into every single area of our lives that can just, again, elevate its frequency and elevate its abundance and what we can, you know, receive. So it's a fun, unique conversation we've had today, and very full circle of like,
Yeah.
you know, on a very biochemical, like biology level, my body was not actually like receiving, you
Mhm.
know, nutrients. I was like, what? My mind was blown. And it was cool because we got to do that together. So
Yeah.
I'm excited to see how we can, you know, collaborate on this and support more women and be able to, you know, all live a more healthy, vital, you know, life together.
Absolutely. I really appreciate you having me on today. It was wonderful talking to you about all this.
It was really, really great. It was my pleasure. Thank you for sharing all your wisdom and yeah, being so generous. And if there's any last little words of wisdom, a pearl of wisdom you'd love to put in to the space on any level, what, you know, what would that be? Your lasting pearl for the audience?
Yeah, I would just say like advocate for yourself, trust your intuition and your body, and go with what your gut tells you. So with your health, with anything in life, that's true. And just find a provider that resonates with you, whether it's me or not. I would just hope that everyone has, a really positive health journey.
Yeah, and I recommend reaching out to her. I do. So
Thank you.
amazing. Thank you so much, my love. It's a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you so
And
much.
thanks for being here. All right. Talk to you next time, pleasuristas.
Bye.